Alright, hey everybody, welcome back to another video. This will be the final theory video for WandaVision, as next week is the season/series finale. We may do a recap video next week on some things to look forward to for the future. But for now, let's get some last minute theories and let's talk about that episode. So, let's start off with the biggest reveal, which happened in the mid-credit scenes where we got to see White Vision. Now, when that happened, lost my mind a little bit. I was like, oh my God, they did it. Now, White Vision has a ton of implications to what that could mean going forward. Vision, for some time in the comics, did become White Vision, and that version of him has no emotions or feelings, and none of his memories of his past life are there either. So when Sword brought that vision online, that is our Vision in terms of body, but that's not him in mind, and he will be emotionless, not think about humanity and stuff like that. So I have a couple theories about him going forward. Let's say Hex Vision dies and White Vision lives on. I think Wanda will be like, oh my God, at least I have you. And he's going to be like, no, I'm leaving you. And maybe if anything, he'll start his own robot family, or he'll just be Avenger / work for Sword or something along those lines. I know we're going to have a Vision v Vision showdown, so that should be pretty interesting. I also think there's a possibility of having a body swap where the Vision from the Hex, which has more so the personality of the Vision that we know, him going back into his original body. Now, I still don't leave off the table him leaving Wanda and starting his own robot family. I think that could definitely still happen, but personally, I think it'd be very nice if we had a happy ending and they could stay together. Also, I find it really fascinating that Wanda literally manifested Vision and made the Hex. In that sequence, when we see her making the Hex and then Vision, if you notice, everything else is red because of her red Hex powers, and then the orange yellowish when she's creating Vision. I have a couple theories on that. We now know that Wanda's powers were amplified by the Mind Stone. She always was a witch, she just didn't know it. And the Mind Stone was that yellowish color. That's one of the reasons why Vision and Wanda were so connected, because they were almost powered by the exact same thing, if that makes sense. I think when Wanda killed Vision and then Thanos killed Vision again, I think Vision's soul jumped into Wanda's body. Like his energy jumped into her body. And maybe that's partially the reason why she's extra powerful now, like more powerful than we've ever noticed, because he has basically Vision's power in her. And when she was creating the Hex, that power or that energy left her, and literally she manifested Vision. And he's literally even made of vibranium. And we know that because we find out that Director Hayward is tracking Vision with decaying vibranium. So Wanda seems to be able to create matter at this point. But the reason why that Vision has a personality, because it's like his energy or his soul. And that's what I think happened. I don't think he's ever going to get back his previous memories unless it was stored somewhere, like on a hard drive somewhere or something along those lines. And that's why he can't leave the Hex, because I believe that energy and that soul of Vision, we know it's tied to Wanda. And since the Hex is almost like Wanda putting her mind and her power like outside of herself, that he is a part of that. That's why I think it's very possible that he ends up taking over White Vision's body and then we get our Vision back. I think that'd be very cool to see. And on White Vision's forehead, you're probably like, what is that? In the comics, before it was ever a Mind Stone, it was always like a Sunstone. Basically, it's what charged him. But it kind of looks like a mini arc reactor to me. So maybe it's some version of Tony's tech that Sword has, which would be really cool too, because he can still shoot laser beams and whatnot. Also, now that Wakanda has opened up its borders, Sword was cutting up Vision, and Vision's made of vibranium. I think it's safe to say that in the future going forward, a lot of people will have vibranium-based weapons and whatnot. So it's no longer like this indestructible substance until, we get a group of people making adamantium. I think the reason why Director Hayward has a hard-on for this Hex Vision and Wanda in this whole scenario is because he knows Wanda didn't steal the Vision's body. So he's like, how did she make another Vision? Does she have that power? And he did even mention to her that, well, you can bring him back online, and she's like, no, I can't, but he had that theory. So that kind of makes me wondering. I definitely think Director Hayward is just some scummy dude, but maybe he's a Skrull or something, like maybe he's been there for a long time and he's seen powers and he's from the universe, like outside of Earth and whatnot, so he has some sort of insight. I also don't put it above Sword to recreate Ultron at some point or another, because if they're recreating Vision as their own weapon, then I totally see them recreating Ultron in the future. Especially that they've played with Vision's body so much now, I definitely think it's a possibility. And I'd honestly love to see that too. I think James Spader was incredible as Ultron, and he's a fascinating villain. So if they bring him back in some form or fashion, even just for a little bit, that'd be kind of cool. I'm a little disappointed we still haven't seen Aaron Taylor Johnson's Quicksilver. I really liked him. I think it's a damn shame they killed him in Ultron. I don't leave it out in the possibility, though, that in Doctor Strange 2 or some future film, they just pull him from another universe, like that exact version. And maybe in his universe, that Quicksilver in that fight in Sokovia, that Quicksilver's Wanda died. So he's missing his sister, our Wanda's missing his brother, and so he comes to our Earth or something like that. I mean, again, at the end of Endgame, that Gamora is from a different reality. She's not our Gamora. Our Gamora died. Like, at least Gamora had 2 films and then Infinity War, so 3 films to sort of have an arc and whatnot. But, I mean, our Quicksilver didn't even get a chance. Really want to see him. He's such a great character. So, the sitcom world of the Hex is because Wanda grew up on old sitcoms, and that's how she learned English, like we thought, like the Dick Van Dyke Show, I Love Lucy, Bewitched, and so on and so forth. So, this world is literally because, it makes her happy, reminds her of the good times before everything turned bad. But after seeing how it all happened, and then the Hex began, and then she lost her parents, it just makes it so much sadder. It's just like, oh my God, man, like it hurts. It hurts a little bit when I rewatch the episode watching that all. Because, we watch the first episode of WandaVision, we're like, oh, this is cute, But we don't realize that she was blocking all those emotions and suppressing that because of literally the grief and trauma she just went through, and it was just too much. Like I said before, Wanda had been a witch her whole life. The Mind Stone just amplified her powers. I find that scene very interesting, though, because in the video recording, when Hydra was trying to watch it again, she just kind of collapsed, nothing happened. But when that event happened, a bunch of yellow light did hit the room. So I do wonder if Wanda had altered the video footage. Maybe the Mind Stone did. We know some of these stones do have like a mind of its own, like the Reality Stone, for example, just goes into people. You know what I'm saying? So I wonder what happened there. It was interesting because when she was interacting with the stone, it's almost like she saw a vision of the Scarlet Witch or a premonition of it. Like, I don't know if that's like the Scarlet Witch of Legends that Agatha is talking about, or was that a premonition of her seeing herself one day become the Scarlet Witch? Like the nightmare she gave Tony in Age of Ultron, he sees all of his friends dead. So maybe it's like some sort of potential future. I found that very interesting, and actually, if you paused it, the Scarlet Witch in the image of the Mind Stone does look like her. I just thought that was very cool. And then Agatha even tells Wanda at the very end, you're supposed to be a myth, a person who can spontaneously create life. This is chaos magic, Wanda, and that makes you the Scarlet Witch. Almost seeming like there's only ever one of these, and they're the best, because they're sort of playing God. Maybe they'll tie that into being a nexus in the future, maybe in like Doctor Strange, or maybe in the final episode, something like that. Agatha, it seems like her whole thing is absorbing people's powers like we saw with her family and her coven, but maybe she's somewhat fearful of this, and that's why she came here. Or maybe she came here to absorb the power, and then as she learned more, she was like, oh no, this is a bad can of worms I'm opening here. I also like the idea that Wanda doesn't even really know she's using like witch power magic. She just assumes it's powers from the Mind Stone, but these are actually like witch spells. I find that very funny and fascinating, and Agatha almost teaches Wanda a little bit in that last episode, like, oh, this spell does this. This is how you transform this, and so on and so forth. So I thought that was a very good scene. I wonder if Agatha's magic is more than just siphoning, because we see her siphoning her family and her coven's magic. And sure, she does a little magic from Wanda, but what if she had a little bit of juice left over because she was siphoning magic from the Hex? You know what I mean? It'd be interesting if her powers are only siphon based, or if that's a special ability that only Agatha has, and that's why her coven was trying to kill her. I also want to point out that Westview was a dying city. As she's driving around, you see the characters in her show, and they're all sad and kind of disappointed. So in a way, even though she did it for herself, she almost helped everyone in that city who seems to be having some depression and some grief issues. So again, it's almost like she did a good thing without even realizing it, or maybe that was her whole purpose. because she could have just recreated her house, or I should say, create her house. But she did all of Westview for maybe a reason. So I think that she was subconsciously helping people. I also found it very interesting that her house, at least in the first 2 episodes, was literally a TV set, and we see that. Kind of makes me wonder about some of the other episodes where we didn't see the camera turn around, that maybe the inside of her house was a TV set, except for the Modern Family episode, because we clearly see the entire house. Oh, and finally, that big cameo reveal that Paul Bettany has been talking about, saying how, he has such great chemistry with this person, he always wanted to work with him. I actually think he's just joking with all of us, and the big reveal is himself. Like, the big reveal was White Vision, because he's going to be acting against himself. And if you rewatch that interview, you can just tell he's like laughing and smiling throughout it. He's just like, oh, we have great chemistry, and I've always wanted to work with this person. I'm a big fan. Maybe we have an end credit scene of Doctor Strange showing up, but I think the big thing they've all been talking about is just him. Oh, and finally, what happened to Monica? We didn't see Monica, Darcy, or Jimmy Woo in this episode, but Monica at the end of the previous episode was taken by fake Pietro. And now we know that Agatha was sort of controlling Pietro, at least his eyes and ears, maybe his mouth as well. I definitely think he is just some guy in the town, and then she gave him powers. But that begs the question of, well, can all witches give people powers? Is it a temporary thing? He does have some version of Quicksilver's powers. So I don't know, it'd be kind of interesting, like, oh, you get in a fight, hey, random person, come here, I'm going to give you powers, go help me fight this person. So, yeah, I'm sure we're going to get some sort of resolution like that. It's rumored that the final episode is going to be 50 minutes, so we should be seeing a lot of questions answered, and that'll be very good. And the biggest question I have is that, do you guys still think a Mephisto or Chthon is in play here? I mean, the way it's shaping up, it seems to be just Agatha. It doesn't mean in the future we won't see some sort of a retcon, or someone reveals themselves as like, oh, I was behind that too, or whatever. Or maybe they talk about Agatha's grimoire book. Is it the Darkhold? We don't know, but the way it's shaping up, it just seems to be Agatha. So I am interested to see what you guys think about that. I love this show. This show is easily became in my top 5 MCU favorites. It's so good, and I can't wait to see how it all ends. I can't wait to watch the making of the Falcon and Winter Soldier show. Man, this is going to be a great year for Marvel stuff. I'm very excited. So let me know what you think. Do you have any last minute theories or comments on how you think the show will play out? Ultimately, I think there's going to be a fight between the two visions. They're going to somewhat merge in a way. I'm hoping they have a happily ever after, but maybe all of this stuff has caused a rift in reality, and maybe that's how we're introduced into the multiverse. Maybe Monica will help Wanda fight Agatha. Will the kids make it throughout all of this? I don't really know. They have a pretty horrific death in the comics, and I know then they eventually become Speed and Wiccan. I'm interested in the way they're going to take this. Are they going to let the kids live and they'll become the Young Avengers in the future? Or are they just going to straight up murder them? So that should be interesting. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll see you guys for the next one.